Everyone thinks they know Alberta. The oil fields, the cities, the open plains. But before highways or glass towers, this land was built on trade routes and remote settlements. Traders once crossed frozen rivers with sleds heavy with furs. Settlers carved out towns where rail lines had yet to reach. Communities rose in isolation, built on endurance rather than opportunity. And when the boom ended, they vanished almost overnight. Traces of that past still remain. In Rowley, one of those early outposts still stands. Rail tracks, homes and a grain elevator, left untouched since the last train passed. At Athabasca Falls, the same cliffs and channels stood here in the 1850s, along trails once used by explorers and survey teams mapping the West. And in Fort Whoop-Up, a trading post once run by outlaws still marks where commerce and lawlessness collided. Stay with me as we uncover Alberta's most extraordinary wonders, where rare discoveries and forgotten mysteries might change the way you see this province forever. Banff National Park was established after railway workers found hot springs, leading the government to claim the area to manage tourism profits. Collisions between land masses pushed mountains sideways, stacking older seafloor rocks on top of younger ones in reverse order. Sawback ridges eroded into shapes like saw teeth, while dog-tooth peaks rise with sharp vertical edges. Wetlands formed floating mats of vegetation strong enough to hold weight, made from tangled roots and decaying plants. Wildlife corridors connect feeding grounds across elevations, allowing animals to move freely without disturbance. These pathways follow valleys carved year-round by the Bow River. The river got its name from indigenous people who gathered flexible wood along its banks to make hunting bows. It later carried Banff's sewage, as the cold braided current could break down waste without leaving visible signs. In winter, steam rises from the surface like smoke because the glacial water stays warmer than the air above. From mountain peaks, the bow forms a wide curve that looks bent, matching the name it was given long ago. Mountains on both sides trap cold air, thickening the mist that hovers over the valley. Along the frozen edges, cougars follow animal tracks through snow-covered ground in search of prey. This big cat has whiskers so sensitive they detect air movement without touch, helping it sense prey even in total darkness. Its eyes contain a reflective layer that sends light back through the retina twice, making them glow when a beam hits. It can also see across a wider field than humans, with vision reaching farther to the sides. Whiskers on its wrists help position its paws precisely when climbing or gripping moving prey. Facial whiskers guide its jaws to the exact spot on a victim's neck for a swift bite. When resting on rocks, it stays so still that hikers can pass within feet without noticing. People near Bankhead once watched nervously as these cats followed the same paths miners used walking home. This coal mine once fueled railway engines and hotel boilers, producing huge amounts of coal each year. The system ran non-stop, with miners working underground while surface crews counted lamps to make sure everyone returned safely. Instead of money, wages came as company-issued credit, only usable at the company store. Plaques placed around the remaining concrete structures tell of daily life before disputes shut the mine for good. Old railcars now rust beside forest trails, where trains once hauled coal from tunnels to sorting sheds. When the site closed, buildings were taken apart and moved elsewhere, leaving only foundations near Lake Minnewanka's growing shoreline. This body of water formed after 3 dams were built, with the last one in 1941 raising levels enough to flood an entire resort community. Its name means Lake of the Spirits, once feared and respected by Indigenous people, long before Europeans renamed it Devil's Lake. Kayakers now glide over what used to be streets and buildings, following its winding shape through the mountain valley. Steep cliffs around it carry the sound of water and wind moving through the trees. Cold air settles in during winter, causing the ice to crack and boom when temperatures shift. Ptarmigans live on the slopes above, their feathers changing with the seasons to match rocks and snow. This alpine bird molts 3 times a year, shifting between white, brown and grey feathers to blend with the seasons. They live high above the tree line, where only short, hardy plants grow before deep snow covers them. Feathers reach down to their toes, forming natural snowshoes that keep them from sinking into soft drifts. When the snow recedes, they peck at exposed grass and eat seeds left from plants that survived the cold. Stillness becomes their defense, blending so well into the mountains that hikers can walk by without noticing. Seeds remain their main food when insects and other sources disappear in the colder months. These birds also scan vegetation with jerky head movements before descending toward valleys like Moraine Lake. This attraction got its name from the huge rock pile that blocks its outlet, though experts still argue whether it came from a glacier or a rock slide caused by an earthquake. The Valley of 10 Peaks, which are around Moraine Lake, once appeared on paper money, making the area one of the most famous views in the world. They sit along the Continental Divide, where water on one side flows to the Pacific and the other drains toward the Atlantic. Cold air often settles in the basin during certain weather patterns, creating pockets of temperature much lower than higher ground nearby. Grizzly bears also appear during berry season, growling across the valley as they feed in their favourite spots. This apex predator roams mountain parks across Alberta, powered by shoulder muscles strong enough to flip objects heavier than refrigerators. Grizzlies rely on remote slopes for dens, where packed snow keeps them insulated through winter dormancy. A raised hump of muscle provides the strength they need to tear through frozen ground and flip heavy rocks in search of food. Facial cues signal their mood. Ears pinned back and teeth bared warn others to stay away. Mother bears feed their cubs while lying on their backs, sometimes moving as if doing sit-ups during the process. Adults spend hours grazing in open meadows, filling their stomachs with grass before berry season begins. When hunting fish, they plunge their heads underwater and snap before the prey escapes, then move toward Peyto Lake's basin. This glacier-fed lake takes the shape of a wolf's head when viewed from above, with the snout, ears and skull clearly visible. It was named after a trail guide known for disappearing into the backcountry alone for long periods. Rock flour in the water creates the vivid blue colour, shifting throughout the day as glacial melt rates change. Trees along the shoreline grow at unusual angles, where avalanches have repeatedly bent them during winter slides. fog often settles into the valley during temperature inversions, hiding the lake until afternoon sun burns through. Local stories claim the wolf shape was placed by spirits to mark mountain territory boundaries. The valley channels wind that form standing waves on the water, visible from overlooks where Stella's jays perch on pines. This blue and black bird lives in coniferous forests across Alberta's mountain parks, calling loudly to mark territory. Stella's jays remain in areas where pine and spruce provide food throughout the year. When agitated, their crests rise sharply, forming a pointed, triangular shape that makes the head look severe. With no visible neck, their heads appears to connect directly to their shoulders, giving a compact profile. Sharp claws grip pine branches as they swivel to scan for threats in every direction. Black heads stand out against bright blue bodies, making them easy to spot even in dense forest shadows. Their facial expressions seem permanently grumpy, especially when they hear the restless, noisy calls of Clark's Nutcrackers. This grey and black mountain bird lives in high pine forests across the Canadian Rockies. Nutcrackers spend much of the year storing thousands of pine seeds, remembering the exact spots months later, even under snow. With sharp beaks, they break open cones quickly, pulling out seeds faster than other birds nearby. They remain alert, hopping from branch to branch, while scanning for danger or rivals. In winter, they dig through snow to reach buried food, sometimes several feet below the surface. Perched above Lake Louise, their heads turn in wide arcs, giving them nearly full vision of the forest below. It was first called Emerald Lake, but later renamed after the Queen's daughter, while Indigenous people knew it as the Lake of Little Fishes. The chateau began as a one-room log cabin in 1890, with one space used for dining, drinking, office work and gatherings. After a fire destroyed its wooden wings in 1924, builders replaced them with concrete during winter, enclosing the site in a wooden canopy to keep temperatures warm enough for pouring. The hotel curves along the shore with windows and terraces positioned so guests can watch the water shift from grey to turquoise as sunlight moves across it. Railway companies built the lodge here, knowing the lake's beauty would draw wealthy travellers willing to journey far to see it. guests once witnessed North America's first mountaineering fatality, which led the railway to hire Swiss guides who trained thousands to climb safely. From the chateau, travellers continued down through the valley to reach Banff town below. The town was modelled after European spa resorts, with curved rows of lots laid out on mountain slopes, once meant for wealthy villa owners. During World War I, prisoners built the roads by hand in freezing weather without pay. A bridge over the Bow River leads into town, where cars often pause to let wildlife cross between feeding and resting areas. Outside the town limits, Vermillion lakes extend along the valley's edge. These lakes contain frozen methane bubbles trapped beneath ice when microbes break down organic material in the lake bed silt. A sulphur spring flows beneath the water, releasing steam that rises off the surface and keeps some areas unfrozen even in extreme cold. Mount Rundle has tilted rock layers where hard limestone forms cliffs and soft shale, breaks down faster, creating gaps. Tall spruce trees grow at permanent angles along the shore, where repeated avalanches pushed them sideways when they were young. Water levels have risen over the years because beavers built dams upstream, changing how the river flows through the chain. At night, cold air drains into the basin, while warm springs keep the bottom water warmer, creating fog that spreads across the surface. Rowley Ghost Town was transformed in the 1970s when locals broke into a boarded-up saloon during a party and chose to restore the entire community. The town became a film set for productions including Legends of the Fall and Bye Bye Blues, with crews adding structures that still stand alongside the originals. Twinned grain elevators built by United Grain Growers and Alberta Wheat Pool sit side by side, creating one of the province's best preserved elevator rows. The Searle Grain Company elevator joined the row afterward, forming a landmark visible across the prairie. A livery barn once hosted card games and hid bottles of alcohol in the walls during Prohibition. The town was abandoned when the Great Depression collapsed grain prices, highways bypassed it in the 1950s, and fires destroyed businesses that were never rebuilt. Waterton Lakes National Park lies where flat prairies meet mountain peaks with no foothills in between. In winter, winds grow so strong that the Prince of Wales Hotel relies on cables anchored into bedrock to stay secure. When snow melts in the warmer months, green forests spread across the valleys and wildflowers bloom. Deer graze the lower slopes, while mountain cows move down from the peaks. As the season continues, pine martens emerge from tree dens to hunt across the forest. This tree-dwelling weasel lives throughout Alberta's forests, darting between branches with agility that rivals squirrels. Pine martens claim large territories, travelling constantly while scent marking boundaries to keep rivals away. Their sleek brown bodies end in bushy tails, and fox-like faces have ears that swivel to track prey. They move through trees by leaping between branches, rarely touching the ground during hunts. At streams, they crouch at the water's edge and lap quickly before retreating to cover. After meals, they groom carefully, licking their mouths and paws to remove all traces of food. Furthermore, these birds den in round holes in rotted tree bark to rest, before venturing toward Cameron Falls to bathe. These falls were named after a surveyor who mapped the area while establishing the border between territories. In winter, ice forms a frozen curtain over the water, while liquid continues rushing behind the translucent shell. During spring runoff, the falls swell to several times their normal width, spreading across the entire rock face. Local indigenous groups considered the site sacred, where the sound of rushing water carried messages between worlds. This belief is also linked to the hermit thrush, whose flute-like song rises near the falls at twilight, as if assuring believers are heard. These odd birds begin calling earlier than other thrushes when winter ends, emerging to forage as fresh vegetation spreads across the forest floor. They toss leaves aside with rapid beak flicks, appearing to throw a tantrum while hunting for insects hidden beneath the debris. Taking off, the bird bursts into flight with explosive wing beats, continuing its routine and only stopping to defecate on branches. Orion was named after the constellation by settlers who watched the stars above the flat prairie horizon. The hamlet grew to over 350 residents, supported by crops that thrived before drought turned the soil to dust. Wooden dwellings had no basements or insulation, leaving winters harsh and summers sweltering inside thin walls. The town ran as a self-sufficient community with more than 30 businesses, including a hotel, blacksmith, cafe and general stores. Dust storms buried ground floor windows and destroyed farmers' crops, wiping out their savings. In 1918, the Spanish flu epidemic also claimed a large portion of the population, leaving many homes empty. Empress was planned as a large railroad city, with lots mapped for miles south of the tracks. The Canadian Pacific Railway sold land for as little as $10, gathering huge sums in a single day. A roundhouse and repair yards were started, but railroad expansion stopped before they were finished. When World War I began months later, the development bubble collapsed. Residents used to follow daily routines set by train schedules for supplies and travellers. Now, the road into town stretches over flat ground, where drivers often see mirages on hot days that look like pools of water ahead. Jasper National Park became the largest in the Rockies after it absorbed smaller reserves that fur traders once kept as private hunting grounds. The Athabasca River runs through it, carrying so much glacial rock flour that its water stays milky, even in the driest summers. In winter, ice builds temporary bridges over streams that collapse suddenly, sending heavy chunks crashing downstream. Sometimes faintly glowing fungi can be spotted on the forest floor, a sight that once made trappers believe spirits wandered among the trees. Above the valleys, birds of prey, like the northern hawk owls, ride warm air currents like invisible roads. This daytime hunter has vision sharp enough to spot a mouse moving from over half a mile away, one of the sharpest sights among owls. Its body stays slim and hawk-like, with a long tail that makes up nearly half its length, unlike the smaller form of most species. Feathers on its face form tight circular rings that help direct sound, though sight remains its main tool for finding prey. Its head snaps from side to side in short, precise turns, scanning the ground below with exact rhythm. It often waits motionless on tall pine tops, camouflaging into the branches until movement breaks the stillness. These sharp-eyed hunters often turn toward Maligne Lake, drinking from its clear waters before the hunt. This lake remained unknown to European explorers until the early 20th century, despite being the largest glacially fed lake in the Rockies. Current glows turquoise because glacial meltwater carries suspended rock particles that scatter blue light while absorbing other wavelengths. Spirit Island earned its name from indigenous people who believed spirits of the deceased gathered there, making it forbidden to visit after dark. Fishermen here have caught trout with deformed jaws caused by freezing temperatures that slow bone growth during development. Moreover, the lake drains through an underground river system that swallows the entire outflow, making the surface appear to have no visible outlet. In winter, thick ice supports vehicles, but cracks with booming sounds when temperatures shift, leading travellers toward Maligne Canyon. This gorge formed when the Maligne River carved through limestone so soft that the canyon continues to deepen even today. Moss and lichen cover the rim, creating green cloud-like formations that appear to hover over the chasm below. The waterfall drains through an underground cave system, so vast that much of the river vanishes into subterranean passages, leaving the canyon floor nearly dry in winter. Some visitors claim to hear faint voices coming from the caverns, though it's likely just wind rushing through narrow openings. Locals say strange animals hide in the coldest caves when snow arrives, while others believe it's only a lynx waiting for prey to pass. These wildcats have paws so large that they act like snowshoes, spreading their weight across the soft powder that would otherwise trap other animals. They have ear tufts that work like sound funnels, catching even the faint rustle of prey moving under the snow. Additionally, their long hind legs and shorter front ones give them a crouched stance, storing power for quick, high leaps. Throughout winter, they shelter in snow caves beneath fallen trees, where frozen breath forms crystals at the entrance. When the snow melts, they rest in tall grass, with tongues out and ears twitching at the hum of insects. Cubs learn to hunt as their mother releases live prey, then capturing it again while the young watch closely. Most stay near glacier edges like the Athabasca Glacier, drawn by the snowshoe hares that gather along meltwater streams. It once stretched across the highway to the visitor centre, but has retreated so far that plaques marking its former edge now sit in parking lots. As the ice melts, it uncovers long-buried trees that grew before the last ice age. Crevasses split open along the surface, trapping anyone who steps off marked paths and sending them into rivers running beneath the ice. The road leading to the glacier follows a path carved by ancient ice, where spring thaws often trigger rockfalls onto the pavement. A plaque dated 2006 shows where the glacier's front once stood before. It moved far uphill within a single generation. Today, tour vehicles with heavy tyres still drive onto the ice, letting visitors walk across frozen ground that feeds the Athabasca River below. It begins at the toe of Athabasca Glacier, where meltwater seeps from tunnels carved through solid ice. The flow stays pale grey because glacial grinding crushes rock into powder, so fine it never settles. Trappers once found frozen animals inside ice blocks that drifted downstream after breaking off from the glacier. The current rushes into Athabasca Falls, where the river squeezes tight and drops with thunderous power. Its water plunges through a gap in the rocks so tight, the river squeezes into a slot barely wider than a person. The mist rises as the current crashes against stone, creating rainbows that arc from one canyon wall to the other on sunny days. Over time, softer rock eroded faster than the harder layers beside it, carving the sharp, narrow channel seen today. The raw and swirling mist disorient golden eagles above, forcing them to veer away from their usual flight paths. These majestic birds build nests on cliff ledges so remote that successive generations of their species have used them for more than a century. Golden feathers on the neck appear only in adults, while younger birds stay dark brown for years. It extends down to their talons, unlike most raptors with bare lower legs. Eggs are marked with brown spots, and the first chick to hatch often pushes unhatched ones from the nest. These eagles dominate the skies, chasing off hawks and smaller owls that enter their territory. Before takeoff, they crouch low and spread their wings wide, creating a sharp stance before launching into flight. Mating pairs stare at each other to defend their territory, while other birds quickly retreat toward places like Sunwapta Falls, where the noise of the water covers their flight. Sunwapta Falls curves around a small island covered in trees before splitting and dropping over two main ledges that form a constant spiral of water below. Glacial meltwater gives the flow a green tint as it mixes with fine minerals washed down from mountain streams. Local stories say voices can be heard in the mist, believed to come from spirits caught in the spinning current. The circular motion stays constant because solid rock beneath the surface redirects the flow, forcing it to spin before it falls. Fort Whoop-Up was a trading post operated illegally for years, selling firewater mixed with ginger, molasses, red pepper and tobacco, until police arrived to shut it down. The original structure burned down within a year from an overturned lamp, though it is unclear whether it was an accident or arson. It was rebuilt using 6,000 cottonwood logs and took 2 years to complete, with stockade walls and cannon-mounted bastions. The facility had 3 trading wickets, so indigenous peoples could exchange goods without entering the fortified interior. A truss bridge connected the post to nearby trading routes, allowing wagons to cross the river junction, where it was strategically located. Outside the walls, cone-shaped teepees housed indigenous traders waiting to trade through the wickets. Crowsnest Pass formed through volcanic eruptions that scattered pyroclastic rock across the area, leaving jagged peaks beside oddly smooth lava surfaces. Black melanite crystals lie trapped in volcanic rock, once mistaken by prospectors for coal and leading to false mining claims. From high ridges, it's easy to see where hardened debris-shaped flat plateaus that interrupt normal mountain patterns. Furthermore, bodies of water like the Crowsnest River can be seen, flowing through uneven volcanic layers. This glacier-fed river flows pale and cloudy from fine rock powder that gives the water a chalk-like colour seen even from above. Its current can surge without warning when snow-fed springs burst underground, sweeping away anything caught midstream. Where the flow slows, swampy deltas spread into wetlands that stretch toward old settlements like Lila. The town once ran using coke ovens shipped brick by brick from Belgium, each piece numbered for reassembly like a giant puzzle. Arched oven entrances were built from fireproof brick, strong enough to handle heat that could melt iron. Coal was baked inside the sealed chambers for days until it turned into coke, a cleaner and hotter fuel used for steel. When operations stopped, the Lilla Hotel was demolished by the company to keep squatters out. Former guests spoke of strange noises from mineshafts below, and few visit the ruins today since wolverines roam the nearby forest. Wolverines use powerful jaws to crush frozen caribou bones and consume every fragment, including the marrow that other predators leave behind. Their massive heads and short legs create a hunched, bear-like shape, giving them a strength that far exceeds their size. They can climb straight up tree trunks using retractable claws that grip bark, allowing access to bird nests and quick escape from danger. Small, deep-set eyes add to their fierce expression, fueling their reputation as the monsters of the mountains. In winter, they lower their metabolism and roam tirelessly across wide territories in search of frozen carcasses buried beneath snow. In addition, their sharp claws tear through forest floors as they dig up food stashes hidden months earlier, guided by a scent memory that remains accurate across seasons. Atlas Coal Mine features the last wooden tipple remaining in the country. The facility operated continuously, extracting coal from underground seams until economic pressures forced it to close. A fence surrounds the property, marking areas where mine shafts go underground and keeping visitors safe. The main building rises several stories, with each level used for a different step in processing as coal moved upward. Old trucks sit with flat tyres and rusted bodies, left where they last hauled coal to waiting trains. The long slanted section is the Tipple, where coal travelled upward on conveyor belts from tunnels below. Drumheller earned its name from a local settler, but the area formed long before people arrived, when inland seas once covered the prairies. The Hoodoo formations wear away faster than most rock structures, shrinking a little more each year. Fossils found in the Badlands include marine creatures left behind after oceans dried up, their shells and bones sealed inside layers of rock. From above, coloured bands striped the ground like marble, showing where floods left layers of sand and clay that hardened over time. The caprocks that shield each hoodoo contain calcite left by seawater that evaporated long ago, creating hard tops that slow erosion. Winding channels cut through the Badlands toward Wayne Ghost Town, where narrow bridges cross a twisting creek. This coal mining town once held thousands of workers who lived in shacks so cramped that miners called them chicken coops, with up to 6 men sharing one room. "11 bridges cross the Rosebud River because the water twists back on itself so often that multiple spans were needed within a short stretch. The Rose Deer Hotel and Last Chance Saloon remain as the only surviving buildings from when Wayne ran 15 illegal moonshine stills during Prohibition. A faded welcome sign still greets visitors, even though the population has fallen from thousands to fewer than 30 residents. A rusting coal hauler also rests along the old railway where miners once rode trains, some injuring their own fingers to claim sick pay when the mines closed for the summer. Now pronghorns graze through the empty grounds where miners once lived and worked. These runners evolved to outrun extinct American cheetahs that once chased them across open plains, leaving modern pronghorns faster than any predator alive today. Oversized windpipes let them draw in huge amounts of oxygen while sprinting at speeds that would exhaust most mammals. Their eyes protrude far enough from the skull to give nearly full panoramic vision, spotting movement from miles away on open grasslands. In desert areas, pronghorns rest in shallow pits during midday heat, then burst into full sprints the instant danger appears. During rutting season, males clash by locking horns and shoving against each other to decide breeding rights. Adults also grow swollen scent glands on their faces, releasing a musky odour that marks territory and family groups grazing nearby. Nemiskam began when residents physically moved their homes and businesses from the bypass town of Bingham, dragging structures across the prairie to the new railway location. A weathered sign reading "Future Home of Kmart" still stands in an empty field, placed by a resident who refused to accept the town's end even as the last families left. The population fell from 54 to just 17 in 6 years, as families loaded houses onto trucks and relocated to Foremost. Nemiskam Cemetery is the only maintained site where headstones mark graves of pioneers, while bricked dwellings crumble into rubble nearby. Abraham Lake is a man-made reservoir formed when a dam flooded a river valley in the 1970s. Methane bubbles appear as bacteria consume decaying plants and animals, releasing gas that rises and freezes into suspended columns beneath the ice. Relentless winds keep the surface clear by sweeping away snow, leaving a smooth layer of ice that acts like glass over the water. Glacial silt scattered through the reservoir reflects blue light, giving the lake its bright turquoise colour. When a bubble breaks through the surface, lighting a match near it can spark an instant flame from the trapped methane. Along the shore, golden mineral bands hold traces of marine fossils pressed into rock, while grey jays trail after it, hoping for bits of food. These birds move through northern forests with quiet confidence, storing meals by coating them in sticky saliva and pressing them onto tree bark, to find later, even after heavy snow. Their soft grey plumage blends perfectly with bark and overcast skies, letting them disappear into the trees as they search for more hiding spots. Fearless around people, some land right on outstretched hands to grab food before darting away again. Short wings and round bodies give them a puffed look that keeps warmth trapped in freezing air. Large dark eyes and a small beak add to their gentle appearance, though they're clever scavengers that miss no opportunity for a meal. Between branches, they hop and glide in short bursts, often following hikers who pause near lakes, waiting for another easy snack. Fort Calgary was originally named Fort Brisebois after its commander, but superiors considered the self-naming an abuse of authority and renamed it for a Scottish castle. The construction cost just $2,476, using spruce and pine logs floated downstream to the confluence where builders assembled the palisade. Mounted police lived in cramped barracks, and winter froze water inside their quarters, forcing them to sleep in layers of wool and fur. The Canadian flag flew above the fort to signal the end of American whiskey traders operating across the border and marked the beginning of law enforcement on the Western Plains. Calgary grew from a police outpost into a major city after the railway arrived in 1883, bringing thousands of settlers who transformed the prairie into an urban centre. The downtown core developed with glass skyscrapers that decline in height from the centre outward, creating a pyramid-like silhouette visible from nearby hills. Originally trade focused on cattle and grain, but oil and gas discoveries shifted the economy, attracting billions in investment. The city emerged as a financial hub for resource extraction, with companies establishing headquarters to manage operations across Western territories. Office towers grew quickly as oil and gas prices surged, stretching the skyline, but then slowed when the markets dropped. Writing on stone preserves rock art carved and painted years ago onto sandstone cliffs that remain visible today. Small hoodoo formations scattered across the valley floor look like melted marshmallows where softer stone wore away, leaving harder tops balanced on narrow bases. The Milk River got its name from its pale colour, caused by clay particles that stay suspended, giving the water a cloudy look year-round. Wind carved the sandstone into rounded shapes by blasting sand grains against the rock over time, smoothing sharp edges into soft curves. These peculiar formations that spread across the valley in uneven clusters confuse the burrowing owls that search the area for prey. Burrowing owls live on open plains, where they nest in old prairie dog or ground squirrel tunnels, instead of building their own shelters. With long, bare legs, they chase insects and lizards across the ground, moving with surprising speed for birds that usually hunt by flying. Their tall, upright posture gives them a stretched look, unlike the rounded shape of owls that perch in trees. Meanwhile, their flat faces with small discs create an expression that always seems unimpressed or bored. In the harsh sunlight, their half-closed yellow eyes squint in a sleepy glare toward anyone who comes too close. At the burrow entrances, they bob their heads in a steady rhythm, tracking every flicker of motion that passes across the grasslands. Sharples had scattered homes so far apart that people walked long distances and community gatherings were rare. Families survived by growing wheat on their homesteads and living in sod houses dug partly underground to stay warm during long, harsh winters. The town disappeared when grain companies combined operations, and farmers had to take their harvests to faraway elevators. Snow buried the gravel roads completely, making the paths invisible and forcing visitors to navigate by memory or compass. A solitary white elevator rose from the prairie, the only tall structure remaining, showing where the settlement once stood. Edmonton began as a fur trading outpost on the North Saskatchewan River, where trappers exchanged pelts for supplies, and over time, the settlement grew into a capital city. In winter, ice on the river looks solid, but hides moving currents, which can suddenly collapse and pull down anyone trying to cross. Meanwhile, downtown glass towers reflect sunlight across nearby streets, creating flashes bright enough to momentarily blind drivers. During the coldest months, temperatures drop so low that exposed skin freezes within minutes, so people navigate through heated tunnels connecting buildings. The North Saskatchewan curves through the city in a wide arc, carved long ago by glacial meltwater that rushed through softer rock. Modern buildings also rise above the cliffs, while below trails wind toward bridges that cross the flowing river. The North Saskatchewan River carved a valley through Edmonton, where the city created one of the largest urban park systems in the world, with over 150 kilometres of trails. Erosion forms tilted layers of sandstone and shale, forming jagged rock formations along the banks where seabed sediments now rise vertically. The river corridor shelters wildlife that roam within sight of downtown towers, creating a surprising mix of nature and city life. Bridges crossing the river include early 20th century structures with outdated roadways but foundations strong enough to support modern traffic. Kananaskis Provincial Park protects valleys where lodgepole pines grow tall and thin, competing for sunlight in dense stands where only the tallest survive. Mountains form parallel rows so geometrically perfect that Indigenous people believed spirits arranged them to create natural corridors. Lakes freeze with such force that expanding ice cracks with cannon-like booms, sending fractures swirling across the surface in spiral patterns. The park has glacier-fed lakes, alpine meadows and forested valleys, with elk, grizzly bears and other animals roaming to reach the edges of the Kananaskis Mountains. Massive slabs of limestone thrust over softer sandstone, creating mountains with vertical rock layers tilted at steep angles visible from the highway. Lakes at the base of these peaks reach more than 100 metres, where cold water preserves bodies that sink to the bottom. Snow caps the summits year-round because temperatures at elevation stay below freezing, even in summer, preventing total melt. Climbers spend days on challenging routes, while northern goshawks soar above, scanning them. This forest predator can reach full speed within seconds, ambushing prey before it notices danger. It begins hunting by perching motionless, then swoops in quiet flights lasting less than 2 minutes before returning to scan for the next target. Its short, rounded wings and long tail give it agility for threading through dense trees at speeds that would crash other raptors. The body appears compact when perched, but stretches surprisingly long in flight, revealing a slender frame under fluffed feathers. Grey bars cover its breast and belly, camouflaging the bird against dappled light and making it nearly invisible when still. Its wings spread wide during flight maneuvers, but fold tightly against the body when resting, seeming to disappear completely. Canmore thrived as a coal mining town where miners extracted rare coal that burned hotter than almost any other on the continent. It is located at the base of mountains formed by a massive geological fault, which thrust layers of rock skyward in a single violent motion. A winding highway approaching the town creates an optical illusion, causing the nearby peaks to appear to shift positions as drivers pass. In winter, temperature inversions trap it under thick fog banks. Former mining pits now hold swimming holes where residents dive into water that once filled open coal excavations. Furthermore, the peaks guide hikers toward Grassy Lake's waterfall, where turquoise water cascades down cliffs. A coal miner built this cascade by carving trails and moving large boulders to shape the path. Hikers follow the route, passing wet sections and holding onto railings to stay safe on the limestone ledges. The water changes colour throughout the day as shifting light passes through the rock flower suspended in each droplet. Additionally, it flows year-round and becomes black ice in winter, making it extremely hazardous. Above its misty ledges, long-eared owls perch on cliffs, hunting quietly as hikers move below. This nocturnal hunter can hear prey moving beneath snow in total darkness, better than almost any other owl. Its facial disc feathers act like satellite dishes, funneling sound into ears set unevenly on its head. When alarmed, the body stretches tall and thin, blending into branches so predators often overlook it. Ear tufts don't contain ears but signal mood, rising or flattening with every shift in the owl's state. The head can rotate far enough to see directly behind while the body stays perfectly still. Eyes fixed in the sockets force the owl to turn its entire head to follow movement, giving it an unblinking, watchful stare. Its gaze often turns toward the Three Sisters Peaks, where legends say transformed figures watch over the valley. This trio of peaks once wore the name Three Nuns after a snowstorm draped their northern faces in white veils resembling religious habits. The stony Nakoda legend tells of the trickster Katomni, who escaped trouble by promising three sisters in marriage he never intended to deliver. Another version describes the creator turning three sisters into mountains to protect the valley from catastrophic floods. Cedar-stained water from Quarry Lake reflects the mountains in pools that once served as open-pit coal mines before reclamation. Each summit shows different rock layers, with Big Sister capped in stone predating her smaller siblings. Head-smashed-in Buffalo Jump was a hunting site where entire herds were driven off cliffs in coordinated operations involving large groups of people. The sandstone precipice drops sharply, leaving no chance of survival for anything tumbling over. The site earned its name from a legend about a young observer who stood beneath the cliff to watch the hunt and was crushed by falling animals. Precision was essential, as a single misstep could scatter the bisons and waste months of preparation. These strong animals can spin and charge faster than a horse can gallop, even though each one weighs as much as a small car. Muscles in their humped shoulders give them the power to push through snow taller than most humans. With eyes on the sides of their skulls, they gain nearly a full panoramic view of any approaching threats. Their curved horns grow continuously throughout their lives, never shedding like antlers. Herds rely on head-butting rituals to communicate, with males crashing their foreheads hard enough to be heard across the prairie. Even the calves join the action, wrestling and rolling in dirt wallows, coating themselves in dust that keeps biting insects away. This is Alberta, a land of hidden wonders and remarkable architectural marvels. Now, if you don't want to miss the most unreal wonders of New Jersey, check out this video.